1938. A hurricane is slamming into New England and Long Island. With wind speeds over 120 miles an hour and a mammoth storm surge, it's what would later be characterized as a Category 3 storm. In Jamestown, Rhode Island, Joseph Matos watches in horror as the violent surge pushes his children into the churning waters. He is at the edge of his property, looking down on the bus his children have fled. But he is completely helpless.
He just couldn't get there, and you know, I'm sure he was yelling in the wind, but you couldn't hear it. And another wave came.
It's unclear exactly what's happening. What is clear is that his children are getting washed away, and it's not certain that he's ever going to be able to find them.
The fast-moving storm strikes cities and towns up and down the New England coastline. Homes are washed out to sea, streets obliterated by wreckage, hundreds killed. Finally, after 2 hours, the waves begin to calm. Floating on a section of their house, the Moore family is relieved to spot a familiar location. In the distance, the Moores recognize a small piece of land called Barn Island. On any other day, it's an easy 1-mile sail from their home.
Well, that all fear went from me. The next thing was how are we going to land, if we could. Maybe we might have to swim for it. We didn't know.
The raft gets close enough to the island for the passengers to walk to shore.
After we got off that raft and through the debris and onto the shore, that raft split in two. And you think, oh my, God was with us, or someone, some higher power was with us, because that could have happened in the middle of the bay.
The worst part of the hurricane is now over, but winds are still strong.
They were soaked to the skin, they were freezing cold, and they realized they were going to have to spend the night there. They had no idea that the hurricane had been so destructive along the entire coast. They thought it was just their area.
Barefoot, the Moores and their servants trek through jagged debris and briars in search of shelter. They finally settle on some haystacks and fall asleep.
It was a miracle that we were on that cluttered up, cold, windy island. I mean, it was a little bit of heaven that night.
West Hampton Beach, Long Island. Around 5 p.m., the wind and rain have died down. Tot Green and the 16 people who had sought refuge in her attic decide to venture outside to find safer shelter.
The landscape had changed rather radically. Houses that had been there hours before were washed away. Sand had moved. It was hard to get your bearings and your location.
The men hoist the children onto their backs as the group walks through water thick with debris. Sopping wet and freezing cold, they head toward a stone house still standing down the road. By midnight, after traveling more than 300 miles over land, the Great Hurricane moves north into Canada. Deprived of the ocean water it needs to survive, it weakens and dies. September 22nd, 1938. The northeast coast of North America wakes up to a glorious sunrise.
Ernest Hemingway wrote in The Old Man and the Sea something along the lines of, there's no more beautiful weather than in hurricane season when you're not having a hurricane. September 22 is this brilliant day, but what is on the ground is chaos, Armageddon.
Some take advantage of the disorder by looting stores and robbing corpses.
There's a sense of desperation that is based in the Depression. You know, the poverty is so deep and so enduring that perhaps many people see this brief window of opportunity to escape that poverty.
States respond immediately by imposing martial law and dispatching the National Guard to handle the disorder. Some troops are issued shoot-to-kill orders to deal with looters. On Barn Island, where Jeffrey Moore Jr. and his family found refuge, they wake up from their haystack beds.
I heard this putt, 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 putt. I know what that was. That was a fishing boat.
In the debris, young Jeffrey finds a mirror to signal the boat. As it approaches, in the distance, the Moore family can see Napatree Point, where their summer home once stood.
Napatree Point was really wiped off the face of the earth. The sand was there, the point was there, but the houses were all washed away.
I can't imagine how it felt to my parents. Their wonderful, wonderful house that they had built, their love of the sea, the love of the location, the wonderful neighbors, the life we had led there, simply gone.
On Long Island, the Green family returns to the site of their home on Dune Road. It is in ruins. But the next morning, a local paper reminds them just how lucky they are. An article claims that Tot and the entire group of people she was sheltering had been swept out to sea. As the waves wash against the abandoned school bus in Jamestown, Rhode Island, an entire region wonders why they were not warned.
Violent Earth, New England's killer hurricane, is brought to you in part by